I try to not let things get to me, and generally they don't. I think I'm incredibly stubborn. I think I've got a very, very, very strong mind. Um, but look, I do listen to people, and I do allow various ideas to influence me. I am not like this closed vault that refuses to entertain new ideas, new concepts. And I'm constantly a thinking person. I think it's what kind of makes me dynamic. The other thing is I'm always willing to change if I've entertained an idea enough and I think it's probably better than where I am. And I'm willing to admit when I'm wrong. That's one of the few things I think that are different from me and maybe other people whose content you consume. I'm happy to say I was wrong. You know what I mean? The other thing is I love owning what people call me or what people think I am. So I've got six children from four mothers. So if people call me names like a deadbeat father, a reckless man, I'm responsible for creating single mother homes, those kind of attacks, because they normally are attacks. I normally sit and I think about them and I try to see, could I be a deadbeat? Am I not providing for my children? I'm like, oh, but I am. So maybe not. Do I see my children as regularly as I can? The problem is that my children are not around Johannesburg. Otherwise, I would see them more regularly. I've got two in Durban. I've got two in China. I've got one in Newcastle. And then I've got one in Joburg. The one in Joburg I see once, twice a week, because of my work and because I travel, etc. So I can imagine I'd see my children all the time. The two in China lived with me for 8 years and 6 years, respectively. But I think about these concepts because I want to own them. I want to be able to say comfortably, you're actually right. I'm a narcissist. You're actually right. I'm whatever you claim that I am. One of the things that does kind of touch me, and it touches me for various reasons, it's this thing of being told that I was captured by Rob Hersov and that I'm a sellout to black people. It bothers me, number one, because there was a period in my life when I was very black conscious, where I was very pro black. And I went and I even registered a non-profit organization. I met up with various people and we started having meetings, about how to uplift the black nation. And I realized, and I wrote a booklet, and we had a call to action, and we made t-shirts where I was saying if we could get black people to buy from black owned businesses and to work for black owned businesses, that will uplift black people and conscientize them on a higher level than what other pro black leaders have done before. The website is still around, our social media pages are still around, and I think we did some good work. It was also at that time where I was getting attacked, and I realized that I don't think we're on the same page. And I realized that being black is not a value system. It's not a value. It's like afros. People with afros are so vast. Some of them are racist. Some of them are great humanitarians. Some of them are good people. Some of them are criminals. They just happen to have afros. Same thing applies to black people. And in that time, I realized white people themselves are not one big blob. As much as the apartheid government kind of made it seem like white people were one big blob, their focus majorly was to advance white Afrikaners. If you look at the Broederbond and how they invested in the National Party becoming as great as it became, it was so that white British people weren't favored. And then you look at all these other nationalities, white Greeks, white Portuguese people, white Italians, white German people in South Africa. They weren't as favored as white Afrikaners. But of course, the policy made it racial. So now you've got black people fighting against this racial policy. And at the time, it made sense for us to fight against it because if there are people with short hair saying everyone with an afro is going to live in the townships, everyone with an afro is going to get crazy jobs and we're going to oppress and exploit you, I understand why later on the afro guys would band together and fight against the short hair guys. But after that has happened, you realize that but people with afros are not the same. So white Jewish people, white Afrikaners, white English people, etc., all varied. White Russians fight with white Ukrainians. It's one of those things. Another reason why it bugs me is because it reminds me of the inferiority complex that so many black people have, where they can never associate a black person, especially a relatively young black person, to have a superior mindset where I can meet with white billionaires, multimillionaires, and still retain my mindset and still own my mind. It has to be that they conquer my mind and they dominate me and they force me to believe in their ideals. It's sad because it means if there is an agenda to break the minds of black people, it's worked. It's worked. Rob Hersov is a third generation billionaire from the Hersov family empire dynasty in South Africa that became wealthy under mining during, I think, apartheid colonization. Rob, of course, catches straight bullets because he happens to be the grandchild of the first Hersov who became wealthy in South Africa, understandably so. He's lived a privileged life. He owns it, Went to the Ridge, most expensive school in Johannesburg. Went to Michael House, one of the top 2 most expensive schools in the country. Went to UCT, I believe. Went to America, worked there. He was the right-hand man of Rupert Murdoch, who's getting married for the 5th time, who's a media mogul. Worked for Johan Rupert at some point. He's been in Europe. He built his own businesses. He failed. He's in Africa now trying to get investments in Africa and build African businesses. The way he speaks rubs some black people off the wrong way because he just reeks of privilege and arrogance, which they don't want, of course. And of course, his family legacy. I understand. You find that is not the same when you look at someone like Umisu Zulu, who's the king of the Zulus now, where his father, his grandfather, his great-grandfather have all been privileged. They've been the custodians of close to 3 million hectares of land. They have the Zulu empire. They've never been poor. Misu Zulu went to top schools. I believe he went to St. Charles, which is a top private school in KZN. He went to go, I don't know if he studied or he lived in America at some point. He's never struggled. Of course, doesn't sound arrogant. He doesn't, he's humble and those kind of things. But it's almost a similar dynamic. The Zulu kingdom was favored by the apartheid government. They made sure that they were protected. But he doesn't catch those strays. You find other people who are descendants of wealth and privilege who don't catch the same slack. This is not me protecting Rob. This is me just trying to explain the dynamic of Rob happens to be white. So now Rob has invested or funded certain politicians. And he's not unique. Patrice Motsepe has done the same. He's pumped money into the EFF, into the ANC. No one calls him a capturer. Other wealthy black people have done the same. A lot of them being tenderpreneurs in the ANC government. Some of them being legit business people. Herman Mashaba has gone into politics as an example. Now you look at my life. I've been funded by my mother more than anyone in the world. Now to assume that my mom has captured me, it's kind of lame. She's my mother, of course. But then you look at, for example, I studied at Rhodes University and it was funded by Ernst & Young. No one is going to say I was captured by Ernst & Young because they funded my school fees. Then I went and I worked for a mentor of mine, Vuyo Jack, who just gave me an opportunity. And I got to meet captains of industry. I got to meet the president at the time. Because of Vuyo Jack, no one said he captured me. Then I went to work at Absa and at Standard Bank. No one said I was captured there. Later on, I'd get into business and I'd have all these people invest in me. Lots of money. My 2 biggest investors gave me 140,000 and 250,000 Rand respectively. Young black guys who believed in me at the time. My business failed and I failed them. But no one said that they'd captured me. And then later on, I meet someone like a DJ Sbu who has put some money into the craft I'm doing on vodcasting and podcasting. And I'm seen with DJ Sbu every week. No one says that DJ Sbu has captured me. No one. And then I meet Rob Hersov. We get together, we become mates. We see that we have certain places where we align and certain places where I fundamentally disagree with him. For example, Rob is an open DA supporter. I don't like the DA. I do feel like they kind of like a racist party, etc. But all of a sudden I'm captured by Rob. I take a picture. Oh, I'm Rob's boy. I'm Rob's puppet. In the last 3-4 years, I've met amazing black entrepreneurs who have pumped in money to me. Multiples more than Rob Hersov has. Rob and Katie were so generous to donate 30,000 Rand to the work I'm doing. But my mom probably in the last year has invested maybe 100,000 in my craft. DJ Sbu in the last year has probably invested more than 120,000 in my craft. I'm not captured there. I'm only captured when it's an old white man who comes from privilege. Because of the mindset of the people that are out there that we're trying to break. It hurts. I won't lie, it hurts. I'm probably going to make another video about this. I wanted to keep this under 10 minutes. I see I'm kind of about to go over it, but Something needs to change. And at least thank you to those of you who do believe in the work that I'm doing, but something needs to change.